Here's an interview from one of our past shows on Rock and Metal Revival. If you're interested in hearing full shows, go to our Facebook page and check out our list of affiliates for times and places where you can hear Rock and Metal Revival. That was the title track to the latest album from Flotsam and Jetsam called Blood in the Water. And Jerry, I just love the way the drums come kicking your ass right in from the beginning of that track.
I'm telling you, man.
And with us today is the drummer of Flotsam and Jetsam, Ken-Mary. Welcome to Rock and Metal Revival, Ken.
Well, thank you very much for having me on the show.
It's first off, congratulations on a killer album from Flotsam and Jetsam with Blood in the Water. I see it made a lot of best of lists for 2021. That's got to be a pretty great feeling for you.
Yeah, it really is. And when we were getting ready to write this album, we pretty much had just completed the End of Chaos, or not just completed it, but we had put the End of Chaos out, and we really felt that we had poured everything into that album, and we were, listening to that album going, how in the world are we ever going to top this? and so it was really pretty amazing to see those best of lists, because we really did all we could to try to top the last album, and it appears that we actually did that. And, we really felt strong about the End of Chaos, so to see it do as well as it has is really kind of something special for us.
Now, there's some amazing double bass work on this album. Dude, I can't imagine feet moving that fast. But do you prefer, do you use a single bass drum, or do you use a double bass drum and double pedals, or do you use a single put and a double pedal kind of thing?
Well, I'll definitely use a variety of things, but on this particular album, I did use a double pedal, just for the consistency of the kick drum sound. But for live purposes, it's always better, if speed is the issue, and obviously on songs like this, speed is the issue, it is a little bit easier to attain those sort of speeds with two kick drums and two pedals.
Oh, okay.
Because when you are using a double pedal, and I don't know, are your listeners interested in drumming technicalities? Or
I'm a guitar player, but I'll listen to anything you got to say, brother.
Well, when you have a single pedal, you've got two bass drum beaters hitting one head. Mm-hmm. And when you have, something like a 22-inch head or a 24-inch bass drum head, there's a certain amount of give in the head. So while one beater is hitting the head is still responding when the other beater is hitting it. So it's actually, it's not ideal, but for recording, it's a little bit more consistent tone. Plus, in the recording studio, it's a little less critical. If you make a mistake, you could just go back and record again, so it's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's why I used a double pedal in the studio. But for live, I do think it's better to use two pedals and two kick drums.
Cool.
That's awesome. Ken, I've always been a big fan of the band House of Lords back in the day, and it had to be pretty interesting working with Gene Simmons and Andy Johns on that project. I always thought the band would have been huge. I thought that band was going to break, but then grunge came along. Do you think that's one of the reasons you left the band? You saw the change in the music horizon?
Well, there were a few things for me personally, but yeah, getting back to your question about Gene and Andy Johns, when I was a kid, the first band I ever saw in concert was Kiss, and I was a huge Kiss fan, and to me they were sort of, I told Gene when I met him, I said, hey, you owe me about $1 million for the all the posters and shows and T-shirts and all the different stuff I bought. And he joked around. He said, no refunds, kid. But,
nice.
But it was one of those things where I was definitely, that was the band that got me into rock and roll, really.
Yeah.
I had been studying jazz and fusion and different types of drumming, Latin drumming, and all these things from a drum teacher in Seattle named Dick Stensland. And then an older friend of mine took me to a Kiss concert. I think I was 10 or 11 years old, and I saw them up in Seattle. And that was a life-changing experience, because when I saw that, I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
So working with Gene was really pretty amazing, because when I was a kid, I used to think to myself, I wonder what Gene Simmons is doing right now. And then there was a bunch of times where we were working, and that thought actually went through my head. I was like, well, I know what he's doing right now.
I can look over and see it.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. It was kind of a cool experience. And then working with Andy Johns was really an incredible experience for me because he was the engineer on another one of my favorite musicians, which is John Bonham, and of course the Led Zeppelin catalog. And Andy recorded all the drums for like Led Zeppelin 4 and a bunch of their other recordings. So, you know, Andy had a lot of information, and I would ask him about Led Zeppelin, how they were recording, and so now I know exactly how they recorded Bonham's drums and how he got that kick drum sound. And Andy was really the first guy to use room mics. I know that probably doesn't mean much to your listeners, but room miking technique is it's where you're putting microphones out like in a hallway or in a room, and you're using that ambient sound to make the drum sound bigger. And if you think about before Led Zeppelin, like you think about the Beatles, you know, the drums are very tight sounding, and they're almost muted sounding. And then when you all of a sudden when you get to Led Zeppelin, these drums sound huge, and you're going, well, how did they do that? And Andy Johns claims to be the guy that invented room miking technique, and I believe him because, you know, there really wasn't any drum sound like that before the Zeppelin albums. And so, you know, it was incredible to work with him and learn, you know, because I'm an engineer as well, and I learned, you know, the different miking techniques and what he was doing about tone and sound. And so it was a tremendous experience to work with him. And one of my favorite memories is he grabbed me. You know, he was a big guy. He was about like 6'4", and you know, hulk of a dude. and he grabbed me in a headlock. You know, we had just finished recording "Can't Find My Way Home," and he grabbed me in a headlock, and he's like, "You and Bonham, man, you and Bonham," you know, like that. And I was like, that's a memory I will never forget. You know, that's something that, you know, to just be mentioned in the same breath with one of my heroes was like you know, it was just such an amazing experience. So that's one of my favorite memories.
That's very cool. Very cool. Now, me and Red and along with you are huge Kiss fans. That's, you know, from back in the day and everything. Now, working with Gene Simmons, did you get a chance to jam on any old Kiss tunes with him? We
did. We played a show in Houston. I think it was for a radio station. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember exactly what station it was, but we did a show, and Gene came up and jammed, and I think we played Deuce. So
nice.
You know, which was the opening to Kiss Alive, I bought that later on. I mean, I think I bought it in like 1978 at a used record store when I was a kid, but that was the first album I actually ever owned was Kiss Alive. So.
Me too.
Yeah.
Us too, man.
Yeah, that makes three of us, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, what's funny, I think if you were a male between the ages of like 10 and 25 in that era, like that was just your band, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way around it. I mean, so many of my musical compatriots, you know, guys like David Ellefson, and you know, like, I mean, you talk to anybody, and it's like they were all, you know, they all started, you know, back watching Kiss and kind of, you know, taking that whole thing in. And my wife didn't understand it really. She goes like, yeah, I was really never into that. I was into like, you know, Barry Gibb and stuff. And I tried to explain it to her, and I said, you know, we watched, I can't remember I think we watched Kiss at something, but I said, imagine being, you know, like a 10-year-old kid, and you're just seeing bombs and fire and these cool-looking guys on stage, you know, and this drum riser that goes up and out and stairs and all this lighting, and, you know, it's a complete, you know, it's just such a show
experience, you know.
Yeah, you're gonna love it, you know. Like, and I tried to explain, you know, why it was that all, you know, kids, especially boys at that age, were totally into Kiss. So it's nice to talk with a couple guys that can relate to that.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I also saw that you worked with one of our favorites on the show, Alice Cooper. How did you get that gig, and what was it like working with Alice?
Oh, Alice is incredible. How I got that gig was very interesting. I was playing at a club, a very famous club in Los Angeles called the Whiskey A Go-Go.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that, but that's a place where everybody, you know, from Van Halen, The Doors, Led Zeppelin, Janis Joplin, Alice Cooper, everybody has played the Whiskey A Go-Go. Like, I mean, it's literally a who's who of legendary music stars have played there. And so I was actually playing with an artist named Randy Hansen, who used to do a Jimi Hendrix tribute. And so I was just playing a show there, and some people that were working with Alice Cooper's management saw me play, and they said, hey, you know, Alice is putting together a new band. Would you like to come down and audition? And I was very young at the time, and I said, well, sure. Are they flying people in? And because I live up in Seattle, and they're like, no, you're going to have to fly yourself down, but we'd really love to have you in the audition. And I guess they had 3 days of auditions, so tons of players came out. Oh. And at that time, you know, I had to decide. I think the plane flight was about $300 from Seattle to Los Angeles back then. And I had to decide whether I wanted to take a risk and spend $300 just to audition. But I absolutely, you know, had to do it. So I spent the money, went down there, and then the next thing I knew, I mean, the biggest place I'd played before touring with Alice was about 3,000 seats. It was a place called the Paramount Theater up in Seattle, Washington. And I went from, you know, doing that to, you know, all of a sudden I was playing sold-out Coliseums. You know, our fifth show was Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, Halloween night, sold out 22,000 people, and broadcast live on MTV in front of 20 million more. So,
I saw that.
Yeah, it was definitely a mind-expanding experience. I mean, it was something that, you know, it's another one of those moments you never forget, because I was so ready for doing that. Like, in my brain, you know, after seeing Kiss and all these things, I always imagined playing, you know, these huge Coliseums, and then all of a sudden I was there doing it, and it was just it was a great experience.
Now, one of my other favorite bands is Accept, and you actually got to play with Accept for a while. Being a German band and stuff, how did that work? How did you end up getting that gig? Was it another thing where they saw you in one band and said, hey, these guys are looking for somebody? And
well, I was in House of Lords at the time, and I was still with House of Lords, but we were managed by the same management company. And I guess their drummer, Stefan Kaufman, had a back injury, and so he had to leave the tour pretty quickly. I think I had 2 days to learn like 14 songs or something.
Oh, man.
And so they called me up, and, you know, I guess it was my manager that had talked to them, because he managed Accept as well, and just said, hey, you know, I think this guy can come in and do a great job for you guys and do the tour. And so that's how that happened. I mean, it was really as simple as that. I flew out, and, you know, we did a sound check, and then the next night I was playing a show.
Wow, that's amazing. You know, the other day, Ken, online, I saw that you've been playing some gigs with a friend of the show, Jack Russell, lately. Oh, yeah. But the gig I want to ask you about is a band that I really loved in the late 80s, and that's Jufria. Can you talk about that, or have you been sworn to secrecy?
No, I can talk about it. Yeah, you're talking about the album that's currently in production?
Yes, I am. Yes.
There is one, really? Oh, nice.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about it. I mean, I can't divulge too much about it, but I can tell you that, you know, Greg is involved. I did the drums. I don't know if I'm supposed to say who's playing bass, but it's a big name guy that you guys will definitely love and appreciate. Vocals on it, I don't know if I can say that either.
Is it the original singer, I guess?
It's not Dave Glenn.
Okay, that's the question I had.
Okay. Who's playing?
Yeah, unfortunately, he's not able to do it. I think Greg asked him and kind of pleaded with him to do another record, and he just said he doesn't have the health right now to do that. You know, he doesn't feel that he's, you know, in a place to be able to do that. So he's unable to do that. But I will say that the guy that's singing vocals on it is probably one of the most incredible voices in rock right now. So I'll leave it at that. But it's going to be a singer that, you know, when people find out who it is, they're not going to be disappointed. Let's put it that way.
Awesome.
Is Craig Goldie playing guitar, or is somebody else You can unnamed mystery guitar player.
Yeah, it's unnamed. It's not going to be Craig.
Okay.
He did do some of the work on the initial demos, and I'm not sure what's going on there as far as why he's not doing more of the production work, but I do not believe he's going to be on the record.
Oh, okay. So
I mean, we'll see. We'll see how it all works out.
I'm so psyched about that.
Yeah, can't wait.
What's that?
I am so fired up about a new Drew Free album.
Well, it should be good. I mean, I think the songs are strong. It's what we laid down so far has been really cool. So I'm certainly you never really know until it's finished and you hear it and it's mixed and everything is done. But if everything goes the way it should go, it should be a pretty impressive record.
Nice. Now I got a two-part question here. Now, what's the craziest time signature or beats per minute that you've had to play to? And then is there too big of a lack of cowbell in modern metal today?
Well, I guess I'll take the first part of the question first because the second one is the most important about the cowbell. I mean, I think that's kind of the crux of music today.
That's what I'm saying.
But as far as the most difficult time signature, I did a record with Jordan Rudess. I did his first solo album, and he's
insane.
He's the pianist for Dream Theater.
Oh, okay, yeah, that guy. I know him.
And Jordan is, in my opinion, I think hands down from a technical standpoint, there's really no question. He is the greatest, rock keyboardist at a technical level that there's ever been. And
no doubt.
He went to Juilliard School of Music since, I don't know, he was like, I think 10 or 11 years old or something. And so the way his brain works when he writes songs, like I'm a songwriter as well, and I'm normally thinking in some time signature, like whether it's 4/4 or 5/4 or 7/8 or 9/16 or, whatever time signature it is, you're writing and you tend to stay in that time signature. Now, I did a record with Jordan where the time signature, he had these beautiful flowing melodies that would be like, and the time underneath would be going like 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 blah blah blah. It's like the time signature was fluctuating the entire time, and so he sent me the sheet music to learn, the songs for the record, and I looked at it and I went, yeah, I don't know if I can do this because you're trying to make it sound solid and like you're trying to provide a foundation, and then you have this meter changing the entire time, and I think I achieved a good balance of you're making those changes, but it's still sounding like it's grooving, and so that was the most challenging situation I've been in musically, where you've got a tremendous amount of movement on the time signature underneath. And again, it's just weird. His brain works that way because he just writes these great melodies, and underneath the time he's not constricted to any particular time signature while he's writing these melodies, which is totally the reverse of most rock and pop musicians. We'll always be thinking in terms of a time signature, and his brain is wired differently. It was really fascinating to see how somebody not think like that.
I bet. And then cowbell?
Oh, cowbell, yeah. Well, again, probably the most important question we'll talk about today is the cowbell. And I think I think it's really unquestionably the situation today where there is just not enough cowbell on any recordings. I think there needs to be way more cowbell.
There's a bias, we feel, in metal.
I think
people just aren't using it.
Yeah, it's like a metal
I think
instrument.
There's a bias against it, and I think it's unfair to cowbells. I think I think we might have to have some social media protests about that. But
an uprising. Yes,
definitely, because
exactly.
it's a metal
we need
instrument.
a cowbell uprising. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, you can't. What are the plans for you in 2022? You got more studio work ahead, or is there a plan to get out on the road?
Well, I am doing some more studio work. I'm involved in a production of a band, which was my first band. My high school band was called Fifth Angel, and that's a band that's on Nuclear Blast Records, which is one of the largest metal labels in Europe. And we did a record in 2018, and now we're doing another one. We're in production now. We're also starting to work on a new Flotsam record. So, the strange thing is, we've had a very tough couple of years with COVID. It's been very hit and miss. We've had huge amount of shows canceled, and postponed, and tours canceled, and so when you say, what are your plans? I mean, we really don't know yet. I mean, we're just going to have to see what plays out, but we certainly are keeping busy in the studio.
All right. Sweet. Where's the best place for people to keep up to date with what's going on with you?
I'd say probably just hit me up on Facebook, Ken-Mary1, or Ken K. Mary Official, or Instagram, Ken K. Mary Official on Instagram. I post things. I'm not like one of these crazy social media posters. I usually post something maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks, and but I try to keep them interesting. Like if I'm going to post something, I try to make it something that's worthwhile seeing. Hopefully,
that's awesome.
I don't normally post what I'm having for lunch. In other words,
thank you,
nice.
Thank you. Yes. Well, we're going to get out of the interview with a song that you suggested that we play off the Flotsam and Jetsam record called 7 Seconds Till the End of the World. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this one?
Yeah, this is a song that I had the idea for on a keyboard, and I worked with the guitarist Steve Conley. He basically came in and made my keyboard jumble sound really cool on guitar, and so this is a song that hopefully is talking about way in the future.
Yeah, really.
But we've had a lot of weird things going on with asteroids, and you're always reading like, oh yeah, we just one just missed us and went by. It was between the moon and the Earth, and it could have destroyed all life. And you're going like, oh, but we didn't know that until because it was coming out of the sun or something.
Yeah.
I think that would just happen in like September or something. So, oddly enough, that was written before that. But that's kind of the crux of the song is something's heading here, and
got 7
That's sort of what the basis for the song is.
All right. Well,
so it's a happy song.
Exactly. Yeah, it's cheerful.
It's a love song.
All right.
Cheerful. Yes.
Well, Ken, we appreciate you taking time to talk to us today, and we want to let you know that you're always welcome to come back here on Rock and Metal Revival.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been great talking to you guys, and hope your listeners enjoyed it.